Today we're going to do some southern fried pork chops and country gravy. I started out with a hot skillet over medium-high heat, and I took 1 cup of flour, salt and pepper, and I moistened my meat with water. Completely coat both sides. And then I go back to the one side and I leave a whole lot of extra flour on there before I put this in the pan. And then it crisps up real good on top. Press it in with your fingers. Then drizzle it off and then do it again. And then leave a whole bunch on there the second time. Now I'm putting in 3 or 4 tablespoons of oil. You just want to coat generously coat the bottom of the pan. That's all. And I swirl that around to get it all coated. And you see all that actual flour that I'm leaving on top? Probably 2 or 3 tablespoons up there. See that? That's going to crust up and make us have a delicious crust on the top of this pork chop. Now I'm putting that over into the hot pan, hot grease. Hot pan, hot grease before you put any cold item into a pan. It has to go in hot pan, hot grease. I'm generously extra coating those pork chops on one side. And put that into the pan, and we're going to let that set uncovered until they brown on the bottom. And when they brown on the bottom, then we can go to the next step. This takes about 5 to 6 minutes, depending on how thick your chops are. And when they don't stick anymore, then they're ready to turn. See there? See that brownness? You can see it. And when you take your fork and touch it, it'll come loose. Now, when you put that cover on, you're going to cover these throughout the rest of this demonstration. They will cook 100% covered on the second side. And the only reason I do that so I can get a real good brown crisp on that one side. And when I swirl the grease around periodically, that allows me to get a more even cook. It covers them well, and it gives them enough grease in there because that grease tends to slide away from the pork chop as it's cooking. See how that released? When you try to move it, see there? Now I'm browning the flour. After the flour turns a peanut butter color, which is about 5 or 6 minutes, I'm adding in 1 cup of water. And I'm going to let that completely bubble every smidgen of that flour. And what that does is where you get rid of your lumps. You have to activate and release all of that flour to that water so it doesn't clump. Now I'm going to use the back side of my spatula to press down any lumps and clumps that you get. And I'm going to add salt and pepper and a little bit of poultry seasoning, 1/4 of a teaspoon. And that's just enough to bring out the umami flavor, the yummy, delicious flavor that you got in Grandma's cooking. I'm adding in the 3rd cup of water. And I'm going to bring that to a boil and check for consistency. And I think that's enough. At this point, I think it's enough. And then when you bring it to a boil, if it's thick enough for you, perfect. If it isn't, cook it for 2 or 3 minutes and it'll thicken up. This is a gravy that my grandmother taught me when I was just young. One of the first things I learned to make was fried chicken and gravy.